aircraft is an F-18 at the 90. Stand clear to port catwalk and fire line. Stand by to recover aircraft.
This is a drill.
Through the ages, been bravely given life. Will always break its word. No matter, we'll still follow this song for freedom. The battle rages on.
On the flight deck, our first aircraft is an F-18 at the 90. Stand clear to port catwalk and fire line. Stand by to recover aircraft.
This is a drill.
Through the ages, been bravely given life. Will always break its word. No matter, we'll still follow this song for freedom. The battle rages on.
On the flight deck, our first
As he approaches his 96th birthday, Jim Hahn still remembers intimate details about his time serving as a Marine in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War, and he also remembers how it all started.
Mother wasn't going to sign. I told her, I said, if you don't sign this, I'll lie about my age. And she signed.
He was inspired to enlist when walking down the street at 16 years old. He tells K10 he saw some people messing with a Marine and his girlfriend.
They was doing anything they could try to make him mad. He told his girlfriend there to go down and wait for him at the red light at the end of the street there. He turned around and whipped all four of those guys.
A year later, he was off to San Diego for basic training. Han joined the occupation force in both China and Japan during World War II, which marks the only time in the history of Japan that it has been occupied by a foreign power. A bitter time these days, though. Gunnery Sergeant Han holds tight to the sweeter moments.
It's going into Japan, there, into town. I seen all these little kids running around there, and they looked like they was hungry and everything else. So I started in getting candy from our PX and taking it in there and giving it to the little kids. It got to where whenever I'd come inside the city limits, man, here come all these kids.
What he didn't realize at the time, candy would one day become his lifeline. In November of 1950, just a few months after the Korean War began, 8,000 fighters, mostly Marines, were trapped in the Chongjin Reservoir, surrounded by 120,000 Chinese soldiers. And you guessed it, Sergeant Hahn was one of those Marines.
If somebody told me this, I'd have thought of them as being a liar, because I did not think that it would get 90 degrees below zero. I seen guys just walking along, and all of a sudden I could stop walking, and they was dead. They'd freeze to death while they was walking.
Freezing, barely hanging on to life. The Marines called for ammunition using their code word, Tootsie Roll.
I never will forget that. They got on the radio there and talking to them, said, send us some Tootsie Rolls. And they was talking about ammunition, a certain type of ammunition.
Well, the soldier on the other end of that radio took the message literally, and they dropped into the reservoir Tootsie Rolls.
Here's this 3 planes there coming out with these parachutes coming down there with Tootsie Rolls. It's supposed to be ammunition, but it's Tootsie Rolls. But if it hadn't been for them, a lot of us, including me, would probably starve to death.
Those little chocolate candies were the fuel that sustained the troops. All other provisions were frozen, so they survived on the chocolate.
It seemed impossible that they was there for any other reason than to save my life. I thank God many times for the fact that I lived through all of it, didn't lose any arms or legs or anything that way. I sat in this foxhole, people all around me freezing, and some reason or other I didn't.
He says all he thought about was his next breath and how he would use it.
I don't know, I still think about it sometimes. I know that God saved me from it. Try to thank God 3 or 4 or 5 times a day about that.
Decades later, Sergeant Hahn literally holds on to that memory with a bucket of Tootsie Rolls made specifically for him with American flags after the company heard his story. Those Marines that made it out are now revered as the heroes of the Frozen Chosen. But this one calls Texoma home, and he chooses to spend his time right here in the Sherman VFW.
I feel like they're brothers. This, to me, is part of the military.
As this veteran reflects on a life of service most would never know, Hahn would do every second of it again. The few, the proud, the Marines. It was such an honor to be able to sit down with Jim, and I just want to say right here on the record, thank you for your service. Not only a World War II veteran, a 3-war veteran. He decided to just keep going back. I know.
And you know, I had heard that, I knew that there was something involving Tootsie Rolls, but that was the first time I actually heard that full story, and that is so incredible.
And he's just walking around Texoma.
How cool.
And I've done a bunch of podcasts. And
Yeah.
I've never had an issue. So
Yep, Caesar, have you tried turning it off and turning it back on?
No, if I turn it off and turn it on, what's going to happen? It's not going to work.
So
It's not going to work.
Hey, it's the mute button, Caesar. You just got to make sure you don't. push
Yeah,
the
first
mute
of all, it's not my
He
first
says we're
rodeo.
good. He says
We're good. So what happens is when you have everything's out of control, like out of the control room here, it's one of those things that I don't know. I'm so used to doing it on my house, like super easy, and then you get here and it's just like okay, because they have to go through. I only have, if you can see, I only have one screen, but there's two of them because I have to be logged into the laptop in order for it to be going through, and it's just like sometimes you couldn't get the sound right.
Don't
and
move it too
like,
much.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
jiggle
Don't
any
move
wires.
it. It's gonna.
I will say a lot of respect. I have this on every Mac I ever buy. I get this sticker right here.
Yeah.
Because I can't ever remember the shortcuts. So
It was like 50 cents on the TikTok shop.
yeah, 2 veterans who can't remember it.
I know.
That's great.
I only use 2.
Well, see,
Command X and C
Is
and
that
Command
like
V.
print screen? I mean, what?
Yeah.
Command P.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing, like at work, I use Windows, and like for my personal stuff, I always use Mac. So it's like, oh, I can't remember. Like, it doesn't transfer. Like, oh, I'm using, because Windows. And or you want to take a screenshot, you use like Windows Control S, right, for a pixel type of picture. And here I was like, Option Shift
Power and
4.
volume up.
4. That one gets
Yeah.
you the select
Yeah.
image. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, so it's the same thing I want to do. I was like, it's so I was like, you know what? I'll just look down here. Okay, yeah, there it is. Yep, got it. So it's super easy. But yeah, it's Barney style. It's just broken down Barney style. That's what we call it.
I love it. I'm
So-
gonna have to have one of those.
Do you have a Mac? You
I
use
have a Mac. Yeah.
See, because it's so easy. Like it's so easy to just have everything on like Apple products. I'm not endorsing anything. I hope Apple does endorses us. So it's just so easy to transfer everything, right? Because I've had like Apple TV forever, and I've had a Mac, like 6-7 years now. So it's like it's so much easier than Windows sometimes.
It's in the cloud.
Well, yeah. What was that movie? What was that movie that they're like trying to get the oh yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Something tape. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna say the name, but people will remind us on the social media. So, but we'll talk about it. But I wanted to talk to you guys about we're talking about the bill, right? So you talk about the it reminds me of the Flintstones for whatever reason. You guys are talking about sand and rock. I'm like bedrock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're familiar with it, Caesar, but the Senate bill, Judge Dossey's been down there, and our county commissioner Josh Maher has been down there in support of the bill.
Mhm.
And the gist of it is it requires a seismic survey to be done within a certain radius of these wafer productions facilities,
Okay.
so that the cement kilns that are coming in don't disrupt the manufacturing process of the wafer chips.
Is that also include like the ones that the makeshift ones when with the road and everything?
The temporary batch
Yeah.
plants, no, those are not in bedrock. So those are just doing things on the surface. And this is specifically for basically Grayson County in this instance, in protecting that bedrock and making sure we don't have any seismic activity due to kiln, mining the limestone.
It's weird. Like, what's the radius they're supposed to be at? Like, how far away?
Well, I think that's probably part of what they're trying to determine.
Depends on who you ask.
Oh.
Some people in certain industries will say 100 miles or more away, and then in the kiln industry they're like, yeah, it's no problem. We can be less than a mile from you. So
Did you guys see that thing today? There was a earthquake in San Diego, like at 7 in the morning. It was like 5.2, and I saw these the elephants on the San Diego Zoo were just running into the middle of their habitat. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. My buddy, he was doing a live because he was on TikTok earlier this morning. He's doing a live, and I saw his thing. He's all, oh well, the Padres are in first place. I was like, no one cares. And then he was just talking about it, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, earthquake! Everybody get out of the house! It was just running, like he just mad dash, and he just grabs his phone and starts. You see the whole phone just running, and so I was like, okay, I don't miss this at all because I lived in California for 20 plus years, and yeah, I don't miss them.
I don't think it was too bad because the worst video I saw was some rocks on the highway. You could have just driven around. I don't think there was any ultimate destruction.
We will rebuild.
Yeah.
surprisingly, there's a website out there you can search seismic activity here, And there's more than you think.
Yeah.
That pretty regular. We have some smaller, what you might consider earthquake type movements.
But people think that it's more of a tornado. Like, we're really not in the tornado alley here, but people are like, oh, y'all don't want to live in like North Texas, or you guys are gonna get a bunch of tornadoes. It's like, yeah, you got some, but you gotta get like how they hit up in Oklahoma.
Actually, I was building houses in Van Alstyne, and I built a house for a family that moved from California, and they moved here, and we had a tornado that went, I don't know, maybe 20 miles, 30 miles. It was down in McKinney somewhere, and like 2 days later, the house was up on the market. Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, well, they had to. Don't they have to live? Well, especially for us, if we buy something with the VA, you have to live there for at least a year before you can actually sell it. Do you know that?
I mean, I guess if you pay cash, you can sell it whenever you want.
Well, that's true too. But I'm just saying, if you use the VA loan, you have to actually live in the house for a year before you can actually like sell it. So, and you can't get another house with a VA loan for a year until you actually paid some of that debt back on that first one. So, yeah, it's a whole thing, but it is what it is.
So that makes me realize there's obviously not going to be any wafer factories in Southern California because of the earthquakes. And you said this was the only one in the country that is here
Currently, the way I understand it.
Is that because of the geological activity that's in other parts of the country? They have a limited selection. Does that pretty much guarantee that we're going to be a hub for it because they can't build it out west and they can't probably put it in the central part of the state over the New Madrid?
I mean, I imagine one of those Venn diagrams, one of those circles is probably seismic stability, but other circles that they're looking for is, availability of water, probably availability of workforce. And when you make all of those with a thing that's right in the middle, was Sherman, Texas.
That's right.
Yeah.
And right, if you look at the map of the United States, I mean, we are nearly right in the center.
Yeah.
So for logistics purposes, these are chips and wafers that they're going to sell all over the country and maybe even outside of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I think it's going to be more a monopoly. Like if you really think about it, because all of the transmissions that you on the vehicles, they're all made in Valencia, Spain. So there's probably going to be the same thing where they're actually going to be building these chips and send them out to different, a lot of different things. So it's just going to be like a monopoly, really. Well, I would hope so, at least.
You never know with what's going on in the global climate right now. It may be. So,
well, yeah, you're right. We got to have a lot more home products as it is because we're depending way too much on other countries to manufacture all this stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't know if a lot of people actually want to pay for the high wages because when you make home products, a lot of those wages are start getting unionized and stuff like that. I'm not saying anything bad about unions, but they do bring up the price of the products a lot more than they did.
I think a lot of that will equalize if you give it enough time. There's always going to be a higher cost initially because they still have some inflow of cheaper products, but once you get your infrastructure built domestically. And you start hiring domestically, and if they continue to push back on the IRS, and if they actually get rid of that, then that's going to keep your actual product cost is going to may not be numerically lower, but the affordability is going to be higher because you'll have more money in your pocket. So, which will translate to the workers, et cetera, versus having more money in your pocket and then sending it to China still.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not one piece of the puzzle that you take or you add to it. Like you have to have all the factors involved. So you got to build your infrastructure, then you've got to work it, but then you've got to remove the foreign competitors, and then you've got to put more money in the Americans' pockets to purchase it with a lower tax rate. So
you mean to tell me in the first 10 minutes of this podcast, we're already talking about tariffs and global economy? Like what is going on here?
Thanks, Aaron. Hey, we just lost about 7 viewers. That's fine.
Well, let's talk about teaming and being the mayor of Sherman for how long now?
Well,
6 months,
5 months. Yeah, since November.
So. Okay. So is it everything you thought it was going to be? Because I know you were mayor pro tem and you worked closely with Mayor Plyler for a long time. Has there been any surprises?
That's kind of one of the benefits of serving on council. It's virtually the same job at a little bit different level, but I was on for 9 years. Josh has been on for 7 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not like new to the game. We've been a part of these conversations for the entire time. It's just sitting in a different chair in the chambers really is all it comes down to now.
Right. So What's your biggest takeaway in your first almost 6 months of it?
Well, it's been interesting. One thing I did learn is that there is a high demand for the mayor. People want you to attend things pretty regularly, and it's been good. I've enjoyed it.
Have you had to up the allowed minutes on your phone plan?
Yeah,
From unlimited to unlimited plus.
No, but it's been really good. Our council, it makes it so easy because everyone's veterans on the dais, and so I don't really have to do a whole lot to look good because they basically know what's going on.
That is correct. That is correct. No, but to that point, I will say, there is, a jack of all trades and a master of none. These city things that we deal with, even just how we come to what the actual tax rate is, it's really, really complicated. And when people get on council, I think they're sort of, I don't know, like drinking out of a fire hose, trying to get all this information, because until you understand it, how can you possibly make a decision? And really, a lot of councils end up being really dependent on city management to sort of tell them the things that they should do, because it takes a lot of time just to learn all the different, we're a water company, we're a trash company, we're a sewer company, we're a police department, we're a fire department. You're sort of the operating board of all these little different businesses with these different services, right? And to get the level of expertise to make an informed decision on how this little thing should operate, it takes a lot of expertise, and it takes a lot of being willing to dig into some really boring stuff, to do it. And that's where Sean shines, because he has never shied away.
It's gonna be boring.
He has never shied away. If you want to have a long conversation about interest rates or corporate leasing or whatever, no, Sean really knows his stuff. And when I came on council, I immediately recognized, when those conversations are having, one of the most informed people at the table was always Sean, and that's why I'm glad he's mayor. Cool.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Josh.
you're welcome, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah.
You owe me $20.
Yeah, no endorsement there.
Yeah.
So let's just say about some of the council that are there. So does everybody really have like a specialty as far as they'll have a subject matter expert on something? Like you just said that you're a little bit more on the financial side. What other things that are there other people in the council bring?
So
Clay's an engineer.
Yeah, he's an engineer, and we have, several of our council members have passions about things, and then others bring certain expertise. And so, at the end of the day, if all of us kind of have to know a little bit about everything, right? We're just going to lean into some of the things that we're more passionate about doing. And so I like numbers. I enjoy numbers. They're fun to me. It's like a Sudoku puzzle, right? You sit down and you figure it out. It's a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
There are other people that like policy, and so they really geek out on reading the ordinances and learning the policy. And then we've got financial advisors, we've got engineers, we've got government teachers on council, business owners, and so we've kind of got a good mix of everybody.
Well, and just when we're trying to make a decision, say for water rates, right? There's an entire company called Willdan.
Yeah.
Willdan. And always strikes me as funny, Willdan do what? You know what I mean? But the name of the company is Willdan, and they know everything there is to know about municipal water and water rates, and they do all these studies. And we get these super informed people that come, and it's sort of like going to school, because you learn a lot about what other cities are doing and how that industry operates. And just one of the best things for me about being on council is that you get exposed to all of these really smart people who know all these really smart ways of doing things.
So when you get elected, not mayor, but just as a council member, what's the training that you get? Is there a retreat? Is there a packet?
How to not get us sued. How to not get us sued is number one.
There's a lot of on-the-job training. We do normally once a year. We host. We have an attorney comes in that talks to us about kind of all things city, but it's more so procedural, lessons. So, how things that you can and can't do as a council member. Learning the language, and Josh nailed it. It's when you first get on council, you'll notice most new council members kind of sit back quietly for a year or maybe longer, because it's like trying to learn a foreign language that you've never spoke before. and the seasoned council members are up there using acronyms, and that can really get confusing very quick. And we've had years, or so, when I first got on, they had years of understanding the finances and where the money was being spent and where it was coming from. And when you first get on, you're just kind of, like you said, drinking from a fire hydrant. And so really it is on the job training. You just kind of have to dive into it, take it home, study it. I mean, there's been plenty of times, I know Josh and myself, we've, they say light reading material when they hand it to you. It's normally a book about this thick. And you just kind of dive in, ask questions, and then that's how you figure it out.
What brought you into actually being in I don't want to say politics, but really into council?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It was in 2016 when I first got elected to city council. And prior to that, I had 0 kids. I had all kinds of free time. And, it was, there was a push from the community for, there to be some changes in certain things, right? And fresh ideas and energy. And so at that time, I looked at it from my perspective and said, I don't have any kids, but I want to raise my kids here. And I'm still young enough and have the time to be able to do this. And we can actually make an impact now and here while we're still here living here with our families. And so I know that was a big motivator for me. A lot of times when somebody serves on council, you put in a whole lot of work for something that somebody else is going to cut the ribbon on.
Right.
And so you're just kind of laying groundwork. And, when you're in your 30s and 40s, that groundwork you're putting in, you're going to get to realize that at some point, and your family's going to get to realize that. And so, it was just good timing for me.
How many times did you actually run before you were actually elected to council?
I ran the first time.
The
I
first
was
time,
elected in 16. Yeah.
And
Reigning undefeated
Yeah.
champion of place 4 or what
I was
zone?
District 1.
District 1
first. Yeah.
that's where I live.
District 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I live right behind by what do you call it? Caris.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm close by. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just on the other side over there where
The other side of the road.
they call it. I'm by the small mart.
Oh yeah. I never heard that one actually.
Yeah.
I've been here for 5 years now. Like I never heard it. It's like that's the neighborhood one, and the neighborhood one. That's the one.
Yeah,
that's pretty close. Yeah. The one thing that really attracted me to actually come here was just like, okay, when we first bought, it was super. It wasn't as developed as it was now. Obviously, in the last 2 years, across from the highway, all the wildlife that they were kind of moving out came into my backyard. So my wife somehow became Pocahontas and just started, you can see her in the morning with, with all the birds and everything. She's like, oh my gosh. So all of a sudden I started, getting, she's like, hey, I need you to go to the store and get some bird feed. And I need you to get this. I was like, how many animals do we have? She's like, don't ask questions. Just go get this stuff. I was like, okay, fine. So I ended up getting all these, corn husk and whatever else for the squirrels. I was like,
there's been a lot. I'm not as far north as you guys are, but I'm close to the new high school, and we've been there for 13 years. And we used to have deer that would kind of cross on the edge of the neighborhood, no matter, actually closer to 14, 17 even. We'd have deer roaming around, and there was cornfields was the only thing on 14, 17, literally on both sides. And, we used to, when our daughter was little, we'd stop every now and then and walk over here, 10 feet from the road. And this is what corn looks like as it's growing. You pop one off and she could see. And, it was really cool. And there was, rabbits and snakes and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the door count is over there now, but it's gone insane. We've got apartment complexes behind us and in front of us there's no wooded part. The solar farm went in where the heavy wooded part was. And it's so different now than it was when we first moved in over there. Of course, that whole neighborhood is expanded towards the high school and now the high school. And then across the street, the whole new addition on the west side of it.
Yeah.
Crazy transformation.
I've got a great photo. I posted it on Facebook, but I've got a picture of a deer standing about 20 feet behind my fence, my back fence in my yard. And right there, right by 1417, and it's a big deer walking through my backyard.
Yeah, it's like
they used to cross pretty regular by where the little bowling alley. That it's just a pad now, but right through that area, there was always deer crossing for years and years until they built those complexes. I'm not complaining. It's just I mean, pretty drastic change.
Yeah, it's something we hear a lot about. Like, oh, I bought this house because there was a big, beautiful field full of trees across the street, and now people are turning them down. I'm like,
Should have bought the field.
should have bought it.
Yeah.
Should have bought it. I mean, it is tough though, right? It's a balancing act because there's property rights.
Mhm.
You own a piece of land, it's your right to do what you want to develop on it. But also, you have to be somewhat sensitive to people being like, "Hey, I want to live in a city that looks like the city I moved into," right? To completely change and strip the character. So really finding that fine line of how do we grow, but how do we not change, right? How do we become a bigger city, but not a different city? I mean, it is really difficult. And it really boils down to all of these small decisions that you make, every time we have council, we have, 40 or 50 items. And those 40 and 50 items cumulatively over years and years is what changes the city in sort of a drastic way. And I think, the conviction that I think everyone council has is how to do it in a smart way and not just go hard left or hard right. And, we call it the right amount of nice.
Yeah.
Right. That's sort of our unofficial city motto. And it is challenging. It really is.
Yeah. Part of our job, a lot of our job, I'd say maybe all of our job, isn't making the city grow or like creating growth. It's managing it, making sure that we're prepared for it, making sure that we're growing in the right way. We all want the nice sit down restaurants that, add to our options to go eat. But to get those, the rooftops have to come. And so then for us, it's not about, are they coming? Because now we know they are. You see them popping up all over the place. It's just making sure that we're doing our job to manage it properly and make sure that we don't lose our identity, that we're doing those things that maintain our identity so that the people moving in become from Sherman and Sherman doesn't become from somewhere else.
Right. One of the biggest things that attracted us to coming up here is the fact that, I was at that point when I was working down in McKinney, and we noticed that it was like the houses were super close. I mean, you could just hand, salt and pepper next to your neighbor next door. But then at the same time, it was like you had almost no trees, no greenery. It was just all like concrete jungle. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, you just came from LA. We don't want to do that. We just left that for something else, right? So when we moved up here, we actually looked around. It was one of those things where we're like, okay, this is great because you have a lot of greenery. You still have, somewhat feels like a country area. You're far enough, yet close enough to take a flight 3 hours out in your Miami, LA, or whatever. So it was just perfect. So the fact that, like you said, keeping your identity, having that type of environment, with the greenery and the parks and all that stuff, it's going to attract a lot more people because they're like, oh, you know what? This does feel like a big small town, or small big town, because we're growing for sure. We definitely got a lot of people coming now, and hopefully it'll stay that way. And I'm hoping that we get an in and out right here. That's what I'm hoping.
We'll put it on the list.
No, I'm going to reach out to In and Out. I had no guy.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's trying to California or Texas.
No, wait, no, dude, nope. Dude, if my wife heard you, she would slap you. I hope you know that, because we tell people, like, you know what? Just because we moved from California doesn't mean we brought them with us. There's a reason why we left. You know what I mean? But we lived in the Central Valley in California, and we're a lot of conservatives there. And that's exactly where we were. And just because, you say California, like, oh, everybody's like, oh, bro, what's going on? And I was like, no.
I think what they're saying is you need to adapt to the Whataburger.
No.
Learn to love it.
Yeah.
Learn to love it.
Dr. Pepper shake.
I've been to Whataburger. I've been there, but I've never eaten there.
Well, you can't poo-poo on it if you haven't tried it yet.
I will not. I will not.
Oh, you don't know what you're missing.
Oh, I know exactly what I'm missing.
No.
I am not missing a heart attack. So, yeah, I will not. You can judge me all you want. I am not doing it. Not gonna do it. Nope.
So I wanted to ask you guys, since we're here on Main Street in Denison, there's always the comparisons of Sherman's downtown, Denison's downtown. I'm familiar with the differences, and they're obviously not apples to apples. But what do you guys see as far as the future of Sherman's downtown area? Is there things that you want to get done? Is there some things that are in the planning stages that people just aren't aware of? What are you looking at?
Yeah, and what I will say, and I'll be quick because I know Josh has a lot to talk about on this topic. So, downtown is one of our top priorities. We see it as an area that we can make vast improvements that we'll actually be able to see here and now. And so, we've been working on trying to hype up some of the local businesses downtown. We've also allocated funding for our downtown for this year, but future years, we're in the planning stages for that. Denison got a little bit of a head start on us with the Main Street, initiative. And so we've historically had a big jail in our downtown, which has encouraged legal services to surround our square, which has been an economic boost for the businesses that have been there for years. But as we continue to grow and more rooftops are coming here, it's what we talked about before, is really maintaining that identity of our downtown being our central hub. And so in the future, I think what you'll see is we want to start treating our downtown like it's a city park where we're reinvesting in.
What are you doing?
Yeah, go ahead.
So treating it like a park where we reinvest into it, spend our time down there, maintaining it, doing large projects to make it more appealing and attractive for businesses. And, we have set up multiple incentive programs for downtown to really help encourage. And we do have some exciting things coming. So sorry, Josh, I hope I didn't steal your.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, if you think of downtown as an economic driver for your city, when you're probably more of a bedroom community, right? For larger cities like Sherman, I mean, Sherman's probably like the minimum standard I would put in this category, but your economic driver is not your downtown. And the only way to really redevelop your downtown is if you treat it like a park, like an entertainment district, right? So, for us to change our downtown into an entertainment district like Denison's done, I think that's sort of what the thrust of the Main Street program is, right? Well, we've got a courthouse and a federal courthouse and a jail and a whole bunch of law offices that want to be close to our courthouse and our federal courthouse. So
bail bonds.
That's right. Yeah. A lot of things that have to go down there because it's still a functioning government entity sort of downtown. But when you start treating it like a park and not as, everything that we do when we're talking about development deals, there really is a return to the city, and it's usually 10x. So if we're helping somebody build a road, it's because on that road, they're going to build a bunch of houses, which is going to generate tax revenue to go back to the taxpayers of the city of Sherman to reimburse them for building that road and then some. With downtown, that's not the case. I love all the businesses of downtown. I want to have a thriving downtown, but the return on investment for the citizen, for the homeowner, for the property owner in Sherman, it's just a lower ROI than almost anything else that we can do with our money. If you start looking at downtown as a park, as a service, as a public function of the city, and you start investing in it that way, I think you get a better outcome for cities like ours, who it isn't our main economic driver. So for smaller cities like what they've done in Denison, it's great. I'm super happy for them. I think it's great that they're here. I love coming down here. I tried, put a hat down low, and sometimes I put my hood up.
Doesn't really work real well.
Yeah, but it's great that they're here. I think a lot of people in Sherman can enjoy Denison's downtown. Our downtown is taking a different track, and it's taken longer to redevelop it into that sort of entertainment district for all these reasons I just mentioned. But I will say, just to reiterate what Sean said, the windfall that we have gotten from these big, industrial users that have come to the city, when we started looking at, well, how are we going to reinvest these dollars? The downtown was right there at the top of the list. So I think finally people are going to see some activity happening downtown. And we started with the downtown sewer redevelopment 5 years ago, and that's almost complete. They say maybe by the end of the year. Anyway, so it just takes a long time. And I think the council is fully committed now in votes and in dollars to making sure that we see movement. So, not always apples to apples, and we probably took longer to get there than maybe Denison.
Well, I think they essentially have a 20-year head start over. So, I mean, there's no way to compare that. And like you said, it's a functioning government.
Yeah.
zone
Mhm.
downtown with a square versus a nice main street that's just been set up for retail walking.
Right. And we have a state highway that runs through the middle
Yeah.
of our downtown,
Yeah.
you know, which makes it difficult to close the road when you have an event or whatever. So there's things that are working against our downtown, probably because it's the county seat, but I think we have a good team and we're committed.
So what's some of the, if you're able to say, like, so you made the comment that we'll start seeing some movement downtown, have some dollars towards it. What's something like, what are we going to see? Where are the dollars going to improve the downtown?
So I think first right now was we're doing a sort of a downtown master plan putting together, which is all the way down to the architecture and design of what the streetscape is going to look like, block by block, like the curb's going to look like this. And, you know, the railings are going to look like that. And the waypoint signage is going to look like this. And we're going to start going after that and going after sort of this low hanging fruit of where can we kick in to help buildings redevelop? Where can we kick in to help the actual architecture of the streets? What can we do to improve the parking downtown? Here are all the pinch points and the pain points, and let's start making a plan so that we can start attacking these in a calculated way. So every year we're not going to get there in a year, but if we can get 10% better every year than in 10 years, then I think we have a downtown to be proud of.
Sure.
So,
and I will say too, to add to that, and historically, there's been a lot of efforts put into building back our downtown and really making it something special. And we do have a substantial number of really incredible businesses down there. Because of the nature of a square, they're just spread out in different areas. But the work that's been happening over the last several years since Josh and I have both been on has been under the ground. Well, he mentioned sewer, water. I mean, it's things that you can't see, but they're important for the long-term success of your downtown. And so you have to lay the foundation before you start putting the makeup on the
right. I think a lot of people don't realize, like, the sewer, that's the first time it's ever been redone, I think, right? In almost 100 years or something crazy.
There's pipes down there that have been there since the first sewer, right?
Yeah.
Sherman ever had is down there. And over the years, there wasn't even a good record of what connected to what and what flowed where. And so we had to do
I can tell you the Chase Bank is connected to the 100 block,
right?
Because it was always backflowing into those.
If you think about it, the center of downtown Sherman was created there at that site in 1848. That's a long.
So that's the sewer.
A lot of years.
Well, then not only that, but then as you're excavating and digging away, now you're coming across the steel rails from the interurban railway still under the roads are there. They just put some asphalt over the top of them.
And tunnels dug during Prohibition that run all under downtown Sherman. They're all down there. Plus, you never know. Sometimes you don't want to kick over every rock and look what's underneath, right? Because if you start looking, you might find the things that you got to fix.
Yeah.
So, being very strategic about how we attack these problems, but just to map the downtown sewer and to come up with a plan of how to fix it was a year. And it was a year of work before that just to get it passed and pushed through council that we want to invest the money to do it and to find a funding mechanism to pay for it, because we don't attack any problem with, we're just going to take tax dollars out of your pocket and throw money at it. Every problem that we have to come up with a finance solution and a payback solution and really think about how it's going to impact our bottom dollar, because despite popular opinion, we are very, very picky about how we spend our money and things that we invest projects in, and downtown is no different.
Right. And I will say, to add to Josh's point from earlier about having this master plan for our downtown, we've had a lot of great efforts down there with facade grant programs and like redevelopment on certain buildings and certain blocks. But what we haven't had was a united plan that we could say, everything that we work on is going to accomplishing something on this plan. And so, for us to be able to get that plan this year, we also have some other smaller projects that will make a big impact in downtown for this year. But the plan will be very important for us to be able to move forward and go, hey, does this get us to a part of this plan every time that we take something on?
Instead of just kind of spray and pray that it comes together.
That's exactly right. So
do you want to talk about, either one of you want to talk about the sales tax reimbursement plan that is in effect?
Oh, the current DBIG.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the So the plan for the businesses that were there whenever the highway was closed, and they were able to.
Well, I don't know if it was related to that. So
That's where it started.
That's where it started.
yeah, okay. I think it was 1% rebate off sales taxes.
Half the sales tax
Or
over
half
the course
of
of
it,
2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there recent changes to that? I understand.
Well, the DBIG program has changed substantially,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what started out was a facade grant,
Yeah.
and then it's had many iterations, but currently it's just a reinvestment program for the city to use inside of its tax increment reinvestment zone to help bring properties back online for retail. And one of the most notable points of that is if somebody wants to put in a grease trap in downtown, that would encourage restaurant activity. The city's funding virtually all of it for them to put a grease trap in, which changes your outlook of all of these, what would be office spaces or attorneys' offices.
Right.
Now they can get a grease trap put in, and that could actually be some kind of functioning restaurant.
Yeah.
That's big.
It lowers the bar to get restaurants and stuff like that going
Yeah.
downtown. But
I've heard
look,
crazy stories about the grease trap over the past, in the last 10 years.
yeah, they're expensive. They're
Yeah.
expensive. Just for the record, that's the county health department that forces the grease trap.
Right. But it does
Not us.
protect-
Not
You
us.
have to throw it in there. didn't you?
although it does protect our sewer lines.
It does.
But we do
It
does.
appreciate grease traps.
Yeah. Thank you, county, for that.
Yeah.
So what is the current status on the DBIG? If I'm a retail business down there, what can I turn in and what can I expect to get rebated?
So, so if you're doing a grease trap, then likely up to a certain point, you could get 100% reimbursement for that, with the understanding that you're doing it intentionally to put in some type of restaurant retail.
And
Um,
and with the sales tax, it is the city's portion of your sales tax.
Right.
For downtown, if it's in the downtown business district, and I think it's for a 5-year period.
That's right.
Is it capped?
No,
No, it's just
Oh, well.
it's
just-
capped at whatever you paid in
2%.
sales tax.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow.
Yep. And the some other elements of that is really back to the facade grant. If you're spending money to restore a building in downtown, then you can apply for a grant with the city to get a certain percentage of that back. I think it's 25% up to a certain number.
Mhm.
And so most projects aren't going to be $1 million projects.
Sure.
They're going to be 100,000 or a couple 100,000. But there's a grant that you can apply for that we have a certain amount of funds every year to participate with, but that it really has been very fruitful. And you notice most of the redevelopment we've had going on down there have participated through that grant program.
Oh, good. Yeah, I wasn't sure what the participation rate was.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I think a lot of those programs, people just don't know that they're there. And maybe they are, because I'm not bringing a business in, so I'm not getting
Why not?
recruited or bringing the information.
Why
I'm
not?
already down there, but I'm not bringing new business in myself, so I'm not getting recruited or seeing what's being issued out. But I think it's good for everybody that lives in town to know also that effort is going into downtown, because there's always, the bleacher creatures are always talking about poo-poo on this and boo-hoo and nothing's going on, but they just don't know. Nobody bothers to learn what it is. And I think a lot of times with downtown specifically, they don't even know what questions to ask to find out if there's movement or not. So
One thing that I did notice though, coming from again California, but I lived in San Diego for 10, 15 years, and they have the gaslight district there. So pretty much like it's a like 18 blocks of just nightlife, entertainment, and all that stuff there, and I think that the Sherman downtown actually does have a lot of potential in order for it to be that way, right? So obviously we know with these reinvestments and able to get some type of funding with through the city or whatnot, they could be thriving. The only thing that I do see that's perhaps a negative or maybe some type of kind of a obstacle is the fact that there's a major highway going through the downtown, because if you want to revitalize that, obviously you're gonna have to either move it a little bit toward to the left to where closer to the 75 going that toward Chase and toward there. That way you can start getting people to walk through and all that stuff, because having that the 56 going right through there, that's going to put it does kind of put a roadblock on it, because they have to stop and do all that stuff and major traffic. And if you want to have it, especially like family activities, and you want to have people walk through, we have to really think about the safety of everybody at that point.
So When the new 82 roadway was built and it was relocated or redesignated from what we now call 56 out to the new road, is there an opportunity for 56 to get redesignated out to the new 82 roadway?
There, in our last meeting that we had for our downtown, that was a big topic of conversation. And actually, Clay Barnett was pretty helpful because of his background to say, hey, we should go and we should petition TxDOT to see if we could get something designated as a bypass for that very reason. So I know that there's conversations going on with TxDOT now to see what would go into making that decision, and what would the dollar amount be if there was a dollar amount, and what would be the timeline for it. But that's definitely an avenue that we're looking at.
Yeah, and it's tricky because the highways are at a certain standard for big trucks and 18-wheelers, and that's also tricky because downtowns generally are not set up to have 18-wheelers driving through them regularly. But
and also, most of the traffic lights in the city of Sherman are owned and operated by TxDOT to a great expense, I might add. And when we hit 50,000 people, they all become our traffic signals to maintain, right? And if we go through and we say, hey, TxDOT, reroute 56 around the city of Sherman, okay, well, we're taking all of those streets that are now going to be maintained by us, and we're taking all of the traffic signals that are now going to be paid for and maintained by us. So there's a lot to consider when doing that, but it's worth considering, I think.
And if you notice now, a lot of the events are held like Trick or Treat on Travis. It's like you said, it's moved kind of to the next block, or they have events on Wall Street pretty regular. And we do occasionally have some really incredible events there on Crockett or on Travis in the center of the square, where instead of shutting down the highway, we just shut down the center section.
Right.
So, that's kind of our workaround currently.
Yeah. The what are those called? Not the granaries, the silos and all that stuff downtown. You still have a lot of truck traffic that's gonna have to go there no matter what you call the road, whatever if it is a highway or it's not a highway, the trucks are still gonna have to get to the silos. Is it doable to designate them, to force them out to Highway 11 and prohibit that traffic through the downtown district?
Or just have a truck route that's not, where they can still get in, get out. But we actually have some things happening with those silos.
Okay.
Oh,
We're gonna paint them like a Denison robot silos.
Surprisingly, obviously, I don't know if everyone realizes those silos are still functioning. They're still grain mill, and so, but there are several structures surrounding the silos that have been dilapidated for a number of years. And I know we have approved, I believe we approved taking the silos down and having city crews, not the silos, I'm sorry, the structures surrounding the silos. With city crews, which
that would have been big news if you'd have left it.
No,
we'd have some calls.
You heard it here first.
But anyways, and there's some trade-off there with the silo owners, and they're going to make some improvements to the silos.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we're trying to get them painted.
Yeah,
definitely.
What other things that you wish that you could bring to downtown to make it more revitalized?
So, that's an interesting question, because in my mind, what I'm seeing is I have my vision in my head for what this master plan is going to show.
Well, just to make sure, and I'll stop you there, because you have the next, years in office, so you should be able to at least give, you'd be like, no, this is my legacy.
Right. And I do believe, I think most of us are passionate about that, and that, we've made it to a point where we've had to put in a tremendous amount of infrastructure, things that are not exciting. Right. And I think a lot of us now that are seasoned and been on there a long time are like, okay, how can we start really seeing some of this stuff come to life? And how do we now get to the surface instead of beneath the surface? And so, in downtown, we've talked about several things, but one of those is creating some more, I would say, green type space, whether that be walkways or connectivity to Kid Key Park, to make that, make it where you could go to downtown, get dinner, walk over to hot summer nights, and be on a protected, lighted pathway. But I think holistically, the concept is we just got to spend some time to beautify our downtown and add elements that make it more exciting and make it more like an arts district. whether that be sidewalks or streetscape, lighting, flower beds, things that really look new and improved. With some of the similar, we love the charm of our buildings in downtown, and we have some ideas on some things that we can encourage property owners to take on to really give it that appeal of a new storefront, but still maintaining the charm of the classic buildings that have been there for just 100 years.
Yeah. To make an analogy based off that, it's sort of like when you're, rebuilding a car, right? Everything that we've spent money on, and a lot of money, are things that aren't seen, but sort of make our engine run better. You know what I mean? Like big turbos and intercoolers and all of this stuff under the hood that really is going to make our city competitive for industries and jobs for the next 50 years. And we've spent just an incredible amount of money to make sure that the bones, the motor is good. Not only just good, but state of the art, better than almost anybody else has it. Our industrial wastewater treatment plant, you can bring any factory to Sherman, Texas, and we can treat their water, which is not something they can get anywhere. Our water treatment and the water that we have coming out of Lake Texoma, look, water's the next huge resource. And, we were good stewards of it, and we've got a lot, and we're trying to get more. And that's the thing that's going to bring even more jobs here and more industries coming here. So that's sort of the future of the city. That's the big motor. And we've made sure that our big motor is, overbuilt and it runs real good and it's state of the art. Now we're coming back and taking care of those things that people can see, those surface level things like parks and downtown and how the city looks, because we know that we invested our money sort of where the rubber meets the road first. And now that we have this big windfall and we have these projects going, now is the time where we're changing and we're focusing more on those quality of life things that make Sherman a good place to live.
What, in your opinion, what is, and no bias or anything like that, just being honest with, what is the most important department within the city? No, and hear me out.
Who's your favorite kid?
No. And it's not that. It's the fact is that one of the most important for me would be obviously the street maintenance, right? That's one of the most important, because obviously we can't have a lot of stuff, potholes all over the place, right? Street maintenance is one. The other one would be what is it? Park, the ones that mow the lawns and stuff like that.
Yeah,
the beautification. That's to me. I mean, if you want to attract somebody, you're gonna have to have really nice landscape, like really nice parks and stuff like that. And then at the same time, you have to really develop that. But if you don't have those services, that to me is some of the most important departments. And I'm not saying other ones, but because to me those are the ones that would be most important.
Well, I don't think Sean should answer the question.
No, that's good. I got it.
No,
that's a great question. Okay. That's like asking me which one of my kids I love more.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I love them all the same. And what I can tell you is that you could have an argument to say, well, public safety has to be at the top of the list. Like, we have to be safe in the homes we live in, right? Like when a fire happens or an emergency happens, you have to have emergency response folks show up, right? You could say, well, water, we can't live without water, so we have to have water. And so you start going down the list and you go, you could make an argument for every single department.
Right.
What I can say is, and this kind of circles back to Josh's point, is that the stuff that makes the city run beneath the surface has been done. And so now I believe what we're hearing is that I've heard this since I've been on council, potholes. And I know every city hears potholes, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just Sherman, but and there's reasons why. And if we have another 2 hours, I could tell you. But
we have another hour, so
okay.
we're good. Yeah,
Well, fair enough. So I'll lay some groundwork then. All right. So back when the economy failed and there was this recession back from 2008 to 2012, basically, the housing market crashed. Okay.
Yeah.
And what you think about cities, especially here in Texas, we have a very high property tax in Texas versus some other states. We don't have employment tax. So there's kind of a balancing act, right? But when cities rely exclusively on property tax values and the values of those homes get cut in half or sometimes lower, then they have to start deciding what they cut first.
Right.
And the first thing that they cut are things like rebuilding streets because that street still looks good today. Well, why do we need to rebuild it when we don't even have money to pay for water or for public safety? And so most cities in Texas cut street budgets substantially and went to a pothole only fixing scenario where they're just patching a hole. The problem with that is when you have a city that's got 250 miles of streets that fail on average every 12 years, a street lasts about 12 years. If you go 5 years without really reconstructing those streets, you're going to have a mess on your hands. And so, and that's virtually what happened is there was a mess at, in 2012, 13, they started bringing back in the street program. And, every year since I've been on council in 16, we've increased the mileage. We've been more efficient with that. And so now we're just building back to a point. So to say the biggest concern that we hear from citizens is streets, probably. What I would tell you is that we also get a big influx of push. This isn't necessarily a concern, but encouragement to focus on things like parks and downtown and outdoor green space and walkability and things of that nature. So if you put those two things together, I believe that our council has made it to a point now where we've taken care of a lot of the underground stuff and we're focused more on quality of life things now, knowing that we still have to do our responsibilities of taking care of water lines and sewer lines, things throughout the city. But, I do believe we have an emphasis now on focusing on upping our street maintenance program, focusing back in on downtown and creating a very, very vibrant community through walkability or green space.
Well, and just to play off of that, and I've said this a bunch, this is one of my favorite little stump speeches, and I'm going to give it to you. I'm about to get up on my soapbox. We started talking about some stuff happening at the national level, and, people waste a lot of time, spend a lot of time focusing on stuff that's happening with the federal government. And a lot of people spend time even worrying about what's going on at the state government. But if the federal government disappeared tomorrow, how many days before you noticed, before it impacts your life? Same thing with the state government. How many years before you notice the things that they do for you that would impact your life? But if you stop getting water, you'd probably notice pretty quick. If your toilet stopped flushing, I bet you'd notice quick. If the police department didn't respond to calls and the fire department let you die of a heart attack and didn't come and save you or put your house out, all of the things that you actually need to live your life and being a living person that the government provides for you, that happens at the local level. And it's always surprising to me that people are way more interested in these ideological battles that are happening 1,000 miles away in a city where you don't have a voice versus the things that are happening in your city that determine how good is the water that you and your children drink. And I just would really encourage anyone listening, you need to pay attention to local government because really that's the government that matters most. And it's the one that people pay attention to the least.
And with that, what do you see the most like people actually get more involved in? Do you wish that you had, and you guys know that this podcast is basically very veteran centric, and I think you know where I'm going with this question, is the fact that do you feel that the veteran community is underrepresented in a way that we're not really getting involved in city politics and or getting involved within the city itself? I mean, I know I'm speaking to you only,
sure,
because you're a veteran yourself, but I do feel like we are somewhat underrepresented, and also like for whatever reason we're not getting involved, and that's probably the fact that we do need to get involved because we do have that world experience that. It is.
I don't think
I'm
so.
telling you.
Frontier,
I think it's still
do y'all have
Sparklight.
that in your neighborhood yet?
I think, yeah, they came in and wired us up.
I was
amazing.
waiting. I
They-
was waiting for those people.
They tore my driveway,
Yeah.
and they broke the cable like going into my house, and oh dude, I was so pissed. Anyway, but we're back. But it's going back to my question. So the question was that we're the veteran community is very underrepresented, and a lot of us are not getting involved for whatever reason. So what do you think those reasons are? And should we be getting involved a lot more?
I think the old veteran joke is I already volunteered once. And
That's true. And here I am.
how did that work out?
Yeah.
But I really think that it's just creating opportunities for people to get involved, and specifically for veterans, creating opportunities where they can use, some of their expertise to come and help the city. I think we need to do a better job of just really highlighting and making a wide, easy path for people to get involved in. We have a ton of committees, from parks to, 15 or 20 different committees. And all of those committees need voices, especially voices that have been other places and seen how other people do things in other places.
Yeah.
It really is, for me, and I'm involved with the symphony orchestra here, as Aaron is also. Coming from a place that had a strong symphony, going to other places where there was a strong symphony has now helped me as I've come back to Sherman with our symphony, because I have seen how other people do things successfully other ways. There's so many things where just being exposed to how something is done in another place and bringing those lessons home is super critically important. Veterans have this experience, like my experience, where you live overseas, where you learn from other cultures, where you have a hard thing that you have to do every day, or have someone that you have to be accountable to. All of these little lessons and that you learn as a veteran, you can really apply to the city, and this city really needs that perspective, I think. But it is hard to get veterans involved, because if you don't know, if you aren't already the sort of person that knows every committee and you're sort of not tapped in, I could see how it would be a hard bar to just decide that you were everybody wants to get involved. Nobody knows how. I think that's the problem.
Well, and I would say that, and obviously I'm not a veteran, but I have a lot of respect for veterans, for the service that they've done for our community and our freedoms. And what I can also say, though, is that, I know most of the veterans that I know are very proud of their history of where they've been, but they don't necessarily want the recognition for it, that they're very humble in what they've done.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times they may not be wearing a patch on their arm that tells us they're a veteran. And we have a lot of, that's right. Yeah.
I got mine on.
But no, and I'm proud of that for you. And I think you should be proud. And so, but there are several, a lot of times when we're volunteering, we may not know that history. And then you sit down and you're drinking a cold beverage one night and they tell you, and you're like, man, I had no idea, and I'm very proud too that, I don't know, do you know what the percentage is of veterans in a general population?
I think the last time I looked for Sherman, the city of Sherman, I think we're like 12%.
Okay. 12%.
And then I think it's really yeah, it's like 12%, give or take.
Well, in the city of Sherman, I saw this from last year that they honored, I think it was roughly 70 veterans that worked at the city of Sherman were honored on Veterans Day, city employees, out of what you might say 500 employees. And so there's an integration there where the city has a pretty good representation of the population of veterans here in the community, which that's, to me, excellent.
Right.
As far as like city jobs, I can tell you that the police and fire department, when you take a civil service test, the written test, that each one of those departments gives an additional 5 points for veterans. So that could help encourage those positions to be filled with qualified people that they know
can shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're willing to take the bullet for whatever else. So that's
we hire Marines too.
Huh? Yeah. Well,
so I feel like a lot of the veterans that I know, that especially the combat veterans, I think your original question was probably geared more toward why aren't they running for city council or more publicly involved?
And then
And my takeaway, this is just my opinion, but my takeaway would be, because most of them are just like, I don't feel like getting nitpicked by the whole population because they don't like the decision I make, and they just more want to run their family, run their business, mind their own ship, and just not have hassle. from the outside coming in.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of what's a word that you? I use it all the time. I keep forgetting what it is, but it's just like we're I guess not disoriented, but just sometimes dismayed. You're like, I don't want to do it. You know,
Disenfranchised,
Traumatized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's just more problems.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably the mindset of
It is
a lot.
Yeah, I guess so. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if you complain a lot, right? I'm just talking about general. You complain like, oh, they're doing this wrong. They're doing this. Well, if somebody's doing it wrong and you don't agree with it, then get involved. You're the one that needs to get involved. And I keep saying, I harp on this all the time. If you want to make a change, you need to get involved yourself and your voice, and you could, ruffle some feathers. The reason why, again, I started this podcast is because I wanted to get some more highlight some more resources that veterans don't have, that people don't know that they're out there. I highlighted a lot of different organizations that are actually helping people, veterans that have no money, that are homeless, that are doing this, and they're giving them gift cards to like Kroger and Albertsons, and they can go and purchase food or whatnot. One of the organizations that I got together with not long ago was called People for a New America, and they're actually going to be putting on the telethon on June 7th. It's going to be involving 4 different cities: LA, Phoenix, Chicago, and Toronto. And in Toronto, there's a channel. One of the main sponsors there. It's called the Disability Channel. Well, that Disability Channel actually offers different training for veterans, that they'll be like, okay, you know what, we're going to offer for you go to school to be a media guy, so you can actually run a podcast, or you can actually have a studio like this, and doing that stuff. So that is what I highlighted, that I wanted to get involved in, so people would actually, so other veterans start get involved and actually get that training. Now, has it evolved into something else? Of course it has, because it's not just about veterans, right? It's about everybody, because people need to really understand that there's other ways and means that you can actually, get out of, out of that rut that you're in, that, perhaps, going through depression, you're going through, you have anxiety, you have all this. There's resources out there that people don't know that exist, that are free to you, that you can definitely use. And that's why I started this, and it just kind of evolved from that. And just,
Well, and I think, just my personal experience, when I got out of the Army, I was like, well, I'm gonna have the world in the string, because there is nothing in the civilian world that's going to be harder than the things that I did while I was enlisted, right? Or the responsibilities that I had, the responsibilities for, an Abrams tank and everybody in it, and all of the ammo, and, this big piece of equipment, and all of the guys under my command. And that's a big responsibility, and being deployed and working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for months at a time. There's nothing that I'm going to encounter in the civilian world that is going to be hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you walk out of the military with all of this training and all of this sort of self-confidence and all of these things that you've done. And then quickly you realize that is perceived to me as worth less than somebody who has a bachelor's degree in whatever, who sat in class for 4 years.
And it's the crazy thing about this, and this
sure,
quite well, is that at 22 years old, you are given the responsibility of having a $37 million piece of equipment in your hands, and you're responsible for it, along with everybody else's lives that are in that section. And you're responsible for it. And then it doesn't equate to when you get out of to the world.
Yeah, when you get out and they're like, whoa, you're not ready for assistant manager yet. You've got to really prove yourself before we can just give you
no take-home cars.
Yeah. When I first started, I was doing fries. And then now I'm moving up to the
Thank you for your service, and you can work your way up to night assistant manager if you can prove yourself. It is very jarring when you get out of the military.
You have more experience than anybody, because you're at a very young age, 22, 23, you're already a frontline supervisor, with 6 people behind you. And then right up, at 20, 25, 26, then you have, 12 people behind you, and so on and so forth. And you already have that, that managing skills that people don't know. And you're dealing with, several other personalities, and this quite well. You have to know every single one of the soldiers. Like, oh, you know what? He's married with 2 kids. He's married with 1 kid. He's not married, and he's a party animal. He's going to be coming back. So you already have to know exactly what you need to expect. And so for whatever reason, it doesn't translate to the civilian world, and you're like, yeah, you're not ready for that.
Yeah,
It's like,
you get out and you quickly realize that it's not appreciated in the same way. And just because you were a hard charger in the military and you were, ranking up really quick, it does not equate when you get out. You're back, not even back to the bottom, because you're 4, 5, 6 years older than everybody else starting at the bottom.
Yeah.
So when I got out, I was 23, and it was very jarring that now I'm really on par with 18-year-olds, and I'm 23, and I've been on all these combat deployments and been in all these places. And I think for a lot of veterans, when they experience that, it makes them just sort of throw their hands up and be like, well, that 6 years or didn't mean anything, because what did it get me other than, deafness in my left ear and no cartilage in my right knee. Right.
Yeah.
I think we need to do a better job of going to veterans and saying the skills that you have, we will take and we will incorporate those skills. And we have trust that you have these skills and we can put you in these management positions. And I think, honestly, since Iraq and Afghanistan, we've done a better job of that than we did before. I think it has gotten better because I got out right, September 1st, 2001 was my ETS date. So right before all that stuff started. And let me tell you, nobody cared.
No.
So I think it's better now, but I think that's the problem. I think that's a big problem.
We had, remember a couple of weeks ago, we had Paul Reed here, Vietnam veteran, awesome story. And he's going to come back in a few weeks. I think here it does. He's all, when are we doing it again? Because it was like, Paul, let people, let people breathe for a little bit. Anyway, but he was 19 when he went to Vietnam, and when he came back, obviously it was right after 68. With 68, you guys know that anybody that came back after 68, they totally came to a different country at that point. And he said that he was very, very disconnected from the civilian world, and
he ended up homeless in his 30s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that the fact that people don't know how to cope with that, because at that point they didn't know about PTSD. They knew they had issues, but they didn't know it was PTSD.
Shell shock.
Yeah, it's like World War I. They didn't know.
So when people talk about homeless veterans, right? Someone asked me, like, why are so many veterans homeless? I'm like, because they trained us to be homeless. It's a more viable option when you
have no responsibility. You can eat whenever, or not eat whenever, but you're right. You have nothing.
Yeah, living outside is less of is a more viable option for a veteran, because you were literally trained to live outside. And you when you go in the field, you live outside, for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time.
Especially Marines and Army.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, me either.
But then I did notice when I was working I mentioned this before, when I was working the homeless shelters in California as a member of the National Guard, what was happening is that a lot of these veterans actually chose to be homeless.
Sure.
Because they had to only make a certain amount of money for an extended period of time, so they can actually be eligible to get into the state home, so the VA driven home. So they have different homes and stuff like that. So they had to make a certain amount of money, couldn't work for so many hours or be homeless for an amount of time. I was like, you guys choose this? I'm like, I would not want to do this, because they were coming in every day, from out in the streets to get warm and spend the night, so they have a place to take a shower and go to sleep. I'm like, who want to do that? I mean. Yeah. I wasn't thinking. I didn't really realize that.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's like, boy, if I had to, could I live in my car if I really had to? I lived in a Humvee for 15 days. I know I can. I know how to do laundry living in a Humvee, for 15 days. Like you have these experiences, and you know that you can do it. And once you know you can do something, it's, I think, a more viable option for people who are, I know that I can go do this, and I know how to survive doing this. Yeah. And when you don't have anything else to fall back on, I think it's easier maybe for a veteran to fall into that trap, because they know that they can.
Yeah. Now, does the city have some type of incentive to attract and to hire veterans?
So, just what I was saying earlier about it, like police and fire have the additional 5 points.
Well, no, I mean, those are the main ones. But as far as this, like the city itself, like other departments, because I mean, every military is going to be either fire or
Right,
police.
right. That's a great question. And and I would actually be interested to learn more about that myself. And I can tell you this, in my business, because I run my own independent business,
Mhm.
the city pays me $150 a month, and so I have to still have a job, right?
Not just for gas.
That's right. Yeah. But so in my business, I always look for veterans when I can, if I've got applicants applying, because man, they are responsible. Most of them they are ingrained to get up early. I don't know what I mean. All of them are they early in the morning? Do you sleep late?
No, I'm actually an early riser. I know
Yeah.
somebody who's not.
Oh, at the house, yeah. But and they understand structure of chain of command.
Yeah.
And so it's no, they said this, I'm going to go do it, right? And I appreciate those elements, because people that are structured, that have that that structure, you give them a task and they go execute the task, And so I love hiring veterans. And I was going to ask you, I participated in a program a couple years ago where the military was allowing, if you were, let's say, we had a guy that came from the Air Force, and he had 25 years in,
Mhm.
and they allowed him to exit 6 months early,
Yeah.
or a year early, if he came out in the civilian world and got an internship.
Yeah.
And so I had this highly qualified intern that had been in the Air Force for 25 years, was one of the best guys that's ever worked for me. And I actually tried to keep him on, and to keep him on as a staff member, but he was destined for greater things, and he went on and landed a really great full-time job. But I don't know, that program to me was excellent, and I wish more companies participated in that.
Yeah, it's one of them is SkillBridge. So SkillBridge allows you to, because we do it where I actually work, and they actually, what they do is they do request permission from the military to actually get out 6 months early, and they'll be able to get the internships and to get all this stuff out. And so what they do is they'll double dip. Basically, they'll get paid from the military, and they still get paid from from here.
Right.
It is a paid internship. A lot of times they'll do that to entice them to actually get out and actually work for these companies. So they do that all the time. And it's a great program because, like you said, you have highly skilled individuals that have all these management skills and all these different ways of thinking. Because a lot of times that quite well that we think outside the box. We're like, you know what, we're not reactive, we're proactive a lot of times. And I might be a little bit reactive now just because I'm just older and I'm like, I don't have the back strength anymore. But we definitely have those skills. But yeah, there is a way to actually get that. I think there are some incentives for the employers that actually do have that program. And I do have some contacts that I'm actually be able to get to see if we can, if the city does want to do something like that, they'll be able to actually get some federal funds from that. But I have to really research it. But I have some people that know some people.
So it's odd. When I did it, the person was going through to buy a home, and my mother-in-law's a mortgage broker, and she was like, "Hey, this guy was asking me about an internship at your place of business. Is that something you guys would do?" And I was like, "Let me meet the guy." And I didn't even know about the veteran program.
Yeah.
And he came and told me all about it. And I said, "Man, I'm all in." And I think if other companies knew more about that, I think there would likely be a lot more opportunities for that transition. And I don't know what the qualifications are on from the military standpoint. I don't know if everyone qualifies to do that, or
it's open to everybody. To
Really?
be honest, yeah, it is open to everybody. The requirements or the stipulations actually put by the employer. It's like, okay, well, I need this. Obviously, you have to meet the basic qualifications, and then you have your desired qualifications, right? So some people don't have, for example, something that has to do with networking. They're like, oh, you have to have networking, plus for 16 years, or that's a desired skill. You're not going to get a unicorn right away, so you have to basically, it's like, you know what, but if you have XYZ, then you could definitely, we'll consider you for sure. But I think the employer is the one that actually sets those requirements as to what they will allow and what not. And the government will actually say, okay, you know what, that's a great program, because then you're giving, you're prioritizing hiring people, especially in the government,
Yeah.
right? So the federal government actually has, hires for veterans that are actually like 100%, they get 30 points. And then anybody with 50%, they get like 20 points and so on and so forth. So all the way down. So my point is that, yeah, you guys or the employer will actually set those guidelines and those standards. And then the government will just approve it, saying that, actually that's what you're looking for. This is exactly what you need. And you'll go with it, and you just hire the best one out of the, obviously you got to vet them out because they're like, oh, do you have a criminal record? Do you have this and that?
Right,
More than likely, they're not going to have it. Otherwise, they can't be in the military for a long time either. Because
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, they need to fast track all members of the E4 mafia right into government as fast as possible, because that's really the people in the military that know how to get the most done and that understand how things really work.
Professional shammers.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The most done with the least amount of work. And, honestly, like a lot of my governmental thinking goes back to my E4 Mafia days, because how we think things get done and how things actually
Really
get done. That delta is where real knowledge happens. And that's one of the things that veterans learn, as they're coming up through the ranks.
Yeah.
So I think it's great to take guys with skills and matching them to get them specifically into jobs in the civilian world with their skills meet. I think that's a great program.
And I don't know, our HR at the city of Sherman may already be participating in programs like this.
We'll find out.
We're going to find out. Yeah.
So, well, I'm going to have to get an update on that, because it's going to be interesting. And then we can figure out, like, you know what, the city of Sherman is actually hiring, they're going to put in a program. And so it would be good to actually have that stuff.
Now,
Well, I'll tell you, we do have a ton though, because we have a luncheon for all of our employees every Veterans Day, and man, there's a bunch, and enough to fill the municipal ballroom. So.
Well, and I was going to say the only thing I don't like about that program is calling them an intern, because like most of these guys are like overly qualified for whatever. I mean, when they came to me, the one program I participated in, I said, this guy's not an intern. He's, like management, level skill set,
I think it's more of a
transition. I don't even know
a
what you call it.
capstone, really.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
capstone,
It's not
right.
really they're transitioning out of the military, so it's called the TAP program,
Right.
Transition Assistance Program, and again with the acronyms, right? So yeah, it's just the transition part, but there's different ones. Obviously, with your lower level people, they're
pointed
gonna
to you when he said lower level.
yeah, well, because he said the E4 Mafia. So the lower level soldiers or service members, they're gonna get that internship, because they're gonna, if they don't have those skill sets, that their desired skill sets, then they're gonna be build them up with that internship. Now, if you have somebody that's been E7 and above, E6, 7, and 8, even a 9, they're gonna have those the senior managerial skills. So it's gonna be more of a transition to a leadership program or a leadership role that they're going to have to do. So there's different programs that you can set and you can put together and build off of that. So
Yeah, and just for any kids listening, only enlist to be an aircraft engine mechanic. Okay, that's the one thing that you should enlist for, because those dudes make bank in the civilian.
Oh yeah,
quickly the day they get out, they're employed. So
well, any structural mechanic, any electronic technician,
radar guys. Yeah.
Yep, that's me. So right now the biggest thing is electronic warfare. Electronic warfare, people that are actually you said radar, electronic warfare, because especially that because you deal with a lot of frequencies and a lot of different things. So you see these drones. I heard the other day that the biggest threat is drones right now, anywhere.
You've been watching Elon Musk, haven't you?
No, I actually when I was in Syria, that was our biggest
really?
threat. Yeah, that was our biggest threat when I was in Syria.
When I was getting ready to ETS, they came to me and they said, "Hey, based on your GT scores and everything, we've got this program. If you re-enlist, you'd be great for. It's this thing, Predator drones." And I was like, "No thanks. I'm going to go to college. I'm done." And now I look back and I'm like, might have been pretty cool.
Yeah,
might have been pretty cool.
Sit in Cheyenne Mountain.
Now, Josh,
run your joystick.
Coming out of the military, did you go back to college when you got out?
Yeah. I got out. Actually, I had 45 days of terminal leave, so I was enrolled in college before I officially got out of the military.
Wow.
I had 60. It was awesome.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, I joined so I could have money to go to college without having to work, because working full time and going to school, I tried that for a year and it wasn't happening. And after I got out of the military, the goal was to get the money and then use the money to go back to go to school. But after my experiences in the military, it was very difficult for me to sit through college classes and listen, because I had done so much and I was sort of geared towards how can I put this? A very pro adrenaline sort of lifestyle. And that transition is just incredibly difficult. And I think it gets taken for granted. Like, you think as the service member, when you get out, it's going to be, a certain sort of homecoming, and you're going to live a certain sort of way, and you're going to be everybody's hero. And you never anticipate just how taxing it is to make that. I heard somebody say the military life is hard but simple, and civilian life is easy but complicated.
Yeah.
And it really took me, man, probably 4 years before I sort of found my footing outside the military. It
Takes a while.
It takes a long time. And I think, in our society, sometimes it's hard to give someone 4 years of grace to sort of,
Figure it out. Yeah.
And you got to paint the picture too. 2001, you might have had one online option, but the rest you had to physically go sit in the classroom.
University of Phoenix.
University of
Well,
Phoenix.
not 2001. Was it?
Yeah.
It
was like the first one.
The biggest lie that the recruiters will tell you, oh yeah, you can go to school all the time. Yes, you can go to school, but the fact that your chain of command will allow you to go to school, different story. Yeah, they had like I think when I was in the active duty Navy, we had Central Texas College coming through.
Oh yeah,
in on the ship, and they had like 3 or 4 different instructors that would come in and actually teach. And they're like, I have class today. He's like, yeah, no, you have to, move the airplanes. I was like,
man,
okay, never mind.
There were guys during deployment that had Central Texas College books and be doing like mailing in stuff, and
Wow.
I knew some hard chargers when I was in that had a bachelor's degree when they got done, because of all of the opportunities. Like the Army does afford you opportunities, but yeah, no one's, if you're, you work your guard shift, and then if your flashlight can last long enough to do your homework, I guess you could. But there were just very few guys that were that motivated when I was in. I think a lot of guys were. It was an alternative to going to college.
Well, aside from partying, it was a different thing. You know what I mean?
Different motivation.
Yeah,
When I went through MEPS, they were like, "Hey, you could do this, this, this," and I'm like, "Which one is the shortest school?"
Yeah.
16 weeks, perfect. Sign me up for that.
Well, when I first went in, actually, I wasn't even a citizen when I went in, so I was actually just a permanent resident at that point in time. So when I went in, they're like, "Well, you can only be a corpsman, which is a medic in the Navy, or you could be a dental assistant, or you could be a firefighter." I was like, "Yes, I'll be a firefighter." And I was a firefighter on the flight deck of a carrier. The only thing is that in order for you to be on the fire crew, you had to be a blue shirt, which is the chalkers. The ones that you ever seen Top Gun. You see the different shirts. The blue shirts are the ones that actually chalk and chain. And then you move to the tractors. Okay, well, I'll drive tractors for a little while. You're the ones that park the vehicles. And then the golden thing, or the golden child of the whole thing, is the yellow shirts.
Yeah,
I ended up, I was UI under instruction, yellow shirt, and that was as far as I got. But then I was like, nah, I'm gonna go somewhere else. I ended up, they sent me to the MAs, which is the MPs for the Navy, for like 2 years. I was like, okay, I guess I'm stuck. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna be a cop later on. And yeah, it happened. So oh well.
So when you got out, did you go right into law enforcement?
No, I got out in 2004. I went to San Diego State, and then I ended up I graduated in 2007. So yeah, I went right into Ventura County Sheriff in 2007.
Wow.
In California. And then I was like, yeah, I'm good, and got out and
His
ventured out.
podcast.
That was after
Yeah.
a long time. And I was like, no, the podcast didn't come until like 17 years later.
Yeah, right.
I was on the 20 year.
So I don't know if you guys are familiar with, or if you are, I hope so, because I'm not super familiar other than it exists. But Sherman centric, to kind of bring us all around back to Sherman with PTSD and et cetera, other things like that. The police department has a partnership with Texoma Counseling Community Center. Yeah. Can you talk about a little bit about how the police department works with the counselors on just taking calls on the street?
Yeah. So I do know that they have a rapid response team over at TCC that helps on calls for the police whenever they're out in the field. Sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's on the phone. But when there is like a mental health crisis going on, and I believe, and I may not be 100% sure about this, but I believe the vast majority of officers, if not all of them, have been mental health first aid certified. So when they show up on a scene, they have some skill set to be able to handle some situations when they're happening. Sherman has some other unique things. Our city manager now, Dr. Zachary.
That's right.
Zachary
Dr.
Flores.
Zach.
When he was chief, he helped orchestrate a registry with the police department that if there was a known household that had some type of mental health crisis history, then when the officers showed up, they would show up prepared and knowing what to expect. And so I know that doesn't, it fits kind of all categories. So it could be anything from any level of mental health concern, but certainly it definitely helps. So when you're prepared showing up on scene to know that this is kind of a historical thing going on here, it just helps kind of ease the situation.
Sure. Look, and you know about this because of your background in law enforcement. A cop is a social worker and also a judo master and, a mental health professional and all of these different roles that law enforcement are required to do, right? Other than just carry a badge and enforce the law. Like you're dealing with people usually at the worst, lowest parts of times of their lives. And it's a very dangerous job. So having the ability to not just have the right size police force, but to make sure every officer that you have has the training they need to do the 25 different jobs you're really asking them to do. I mean, that really makes a difference in how your police department is perceived. It makes a difference in, are you getting sued every 3 months because your officers did something that they weren't supposed to? And it's sort of a feedback loop, right? So the more that you can invest in your police officers and the more training that you can give them and the more programs like the one that we're talking about, you have better and better and better outcomes is what you want for a police department. But the inverse of that is also true. And if you don't have these programs and you don't invest in training your police officers, then you get worse outcomes. Those worse outcomes have financial liabilities attached to them, and it gets harder and harder and harder to have a successful police department. And it's just one of those things where like you can never invest enough money in police and fire.
Right.
You just can't.
Do you know with the partnership, I guess it's the partnership, I don't know what else, the working relationship with TCC, is anybody else doing that, or is Sherman the only one, or the pilot program?
No, there's other places that I know of that are doing programs, not always with TCC. Sometimes they're trying to do things in-house with in-house special trained people. I think there's 15 different ways people are trying to skin that cat. I don't think anybody's come down with this is the model that works the best. This is just the way that we're trying it.
And I will say, there's a local group, the Texoma Behavioral Health Leadership Team, that has really helped connect a lot of those dots. That group had a group of local leaders that were in positions like, administration in the city, in all the cities, the police chiefs, the fire chiefs, the county elected officials, and the sheriff, and really they helped foster that environment to create that relationship with TCC to really spearhead that initiative, and I believe it's been very valuable for our community. They've done a lot of other initiatives as well that have really helped substantially with mental health here, but that's a big problem across the state, across the country, and there's just not a great solution currently. But small groups like that working together to try to help unify the front locally with.
I wish I'd had that resource.
Yeah.
When I was out. That would have been like so many times I can think of that. Yeah. That would have been just a total game changer.
I mean, how many calls are really at the end of it, the heart of the matter, a mental health issue? You know,
a lot.
Mhm.
right?
A lot of people would, especially if like veterans, that would actually be able to recognize some behavioral health problems, because a lot of these vets or a lot of these people don't realize that they have some type of mental health or issues, be it that they're having a PTSD breakdown, or they're just having some type of schizophrenic episode, or things like that. A lot of veterans actually will be able to recognize some of those things because they go through it, especially if they're combat veterans, they'll be able to go through it.
And not just PTSD, but when you start talking about like what these NFL players get with CTE, the next biggest group besides athletes that suffer from CTE are veterans, because there's a lot of head injury involved.
TBI.
The stuff that's happening when you're in the military, and you look at some of these behaviors and you think, oh man, that could literally be traumatic brain injury
for sure
for these guys. And the resources now I think are better than they've ever been. Right? Are they sufficient? I don't know. You can make the argument that they aren't, but they are better than they've ever been. We're moving in the right direction, but
in the recent years, for sure.
Yeah.
So we're going to switch gears here in a minute, and we're actually going to play a little game that I like to call Rapid Fire Questions. All right, Rapid Fire Questions is brought to you by EGA Construction down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And thank you to my friend Lynn Toomer, who is probably listening in. He is the owner proprietor of EGA Construction, and he is one of my sponsors here tonight. So thank you for that. Also, big shout out to Split Window Studios and Podcast on Main for allowing us to be here, even though we had a couple of technical issues that were not their fault, because they're actually building out here in the street, so they probably cut a line here and there. So we apologize for those technical difficulties. So my favorite game here is called Rapid Fire Questions. The purpose of this game is to ask you questions, and you need to answer as fast as you can without thinking of what's coming out of your mouth.
Oh boy.
So, and this is just to put you on the spot, because
is this like Jeopardy? Do we like?
No. Okay. First of all,
Family Feud. We hit the button and Josh.
No, I'm going to direct a question to you.
Okay.
And be like, you need to answer. So, for example, I'm going to ask you a question, and you just have to, like, first thing that comes out of your mind or into your head, and that's what you get your answer. So, example, I'm going to give you
you might want to run one filter through.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not. The FCC is not after me.
So it'd be questions.
No, they're not straight questions. The FCC is not after me. So if any profanities come out, I'm okay with it. Okay. It's not. We're not being sanctioned. Cool. Except later on, be like, I saw you.
Do you have a beep button on that?
I probably do, but I'm not. Wait, I have a mute button. So yeah, but it is. All right, here's a sample question. What's your favorite military movie?
Top Gun.
Which one?
The new one.
There's people. There's the old school.
I like them both.
Yeah.
But the new one was awesome.
Yeah. All right. Favorite book?
Jeez. Military book or just book?
Just book. See? Everybody gets stumped on that one.
For whatever reason, hang on. You have to qualify the question. Josh, can you read?
No, I read a lot.
Josh loves romance.
I read a lot.
Yeah.
Fabio on the cover.
Fabio on the cover, yeah. Are you a Hallmark movie guy?
No. No, that's an easy one. No. The answer is no. Probably something Stephen King. I think I've read every Stephen King book like 5 times. So something Stephen King.
Okay. So now you know the flow of the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So pretty easy, right? So I know you're gonna jump into this one. So all right. Biggest regret so far in the last 6 months.
Ooh. Ouch.
See?
It's supposed to be a rapid response.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. See, to me, he's like, I didn't wake up early on Mother's Day.
Oh man. God, that's a toughie. Biggest regret.
Okay, biggest do-over. How's that?
Ooh. Biggest do over. Probably buying all those 4x8s.
Well,
No.
is I have this is I feel regretful about this, but early on when I first got the mayor job, I missed a few things because my schedule was all wacky, and there were very important events that I did not show up to where I was asked to speak, and I just no-showed them and ghosted them on accident.
Dang.
So, yeah,
Kind of like it happens. I mean, it is what it is.
yeah.
All right. Biggest lesson learned.
Biggest lesson learned ever?
Don't
Don't eat yellow snow.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a given.
You didn't tell me these questions are going to be like deep questions.
How's that deep?
He
I
went
mean,
from favorite movie to
yeah,
biggest
yeah,
regret.
I go, like,
That's
favorite
like-
hey,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point of this game, man.
Like when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
All right. So my favorite lesson learned was something my dad used to say, which is nothing is expensive if you're not paying for it.
Okay.
See, that was deep.
Politician.
Right? Yeah, I know,
Sponsor,
right?
deep
Yeah,
response.
Get a sponsor.
yeah.
His dad was,
Yeah.
was a preacher.
Yeah, that's right.
right.
Son of a preacher, man.
Yeah.
Sam Kinison was a preacher. So.
Amen.
I think George Carlin at one point was too.
Yeah.
Sam
I think.
Kinison also was a preacher and then suffered traumatic brain injury, and it changed his personality.
Mhm.
True story.
Is that like the same ones like when people actually change their accents? All of a sudden they start speaking with a British accent.
Kinda.
Yeah.
He was pretty severe.
Is that like Gary Busey type of thing? Yeah.
I think he's just crazy. It's
Wow.
probably a lot of chemical induced.
Wow. I think those people in those areas were, or that era were.
Mhm.
Okay, so favorite leader that you try to emulate.
Oh, favorite leader.
Like a favorite quote, like my favorite quote.
Well, and you think someone famous or someone else. So, I had a high school football coach in high school that was just always positive, always encouraging and motivating, and rewarded us for success, but also got onto us when we were doing bad.
Mhm.
His name was Coach Box from Anna, and I think of him a lot of times when I think of who in my life who's been a really great leader. That's the non-family,
Right.
answer. But if you're saying like famous person or something, then that's a whole different animal. But
That usually are.
Yeah.
What about your favorite quote?
Favorite quote is by Mark Twain. An expert is someone who knows more and more about less and less.
That just went over my head.
I'm glad you're giving him the hard ones here.
Yeah.
You're like with me. What's your favorite color? I still
Red.
can't answer it. I still
City of Sherman red.
Right.
Hey, you didn't get the memo about the Under Armour shirts?
No, I didn't. Everybody's got on Under Armour. I didn't know.
Yeah, we're getting sponsored by Under Armour next.
So, I have a Ralph Lauren. Is that count?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fancy.
I think I was made in China.
Hey,
Yeah, well, it is what it is. All right. What is the one thing that you want to see come to Sherman?
I know this one.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know if I can say it.
No. So you don't have to say
It's not that it's coming or not coming.
no. I'm just saying that you
Right.
would like to see.
I would love to see an HEB grocery store here.
You heard it here first,
Mhm.
people. They're not coming in, but
Yeah, you just never know.
you never know.
That's right.
What is one thing that you wish? Okay, hold on. Let me rephrase that. Blah, blah, blah. If you
Mhm.
were in charge of a committee,
Mhm.
what is the one thing that you would change on the first time?
Which committee?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, I would change any committee to where I just get to make all the decisions.
No compromise. Yeah.
I'm the exalted ruler, yeah, and you're out.
Right. King of the committee.
If I had
Yeah.
it my way, I would just be like, "Here's your job is to figure out how to make these things happen." It's always difficult for me to not just be like, "We're gonna do blah 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 blah." And this is, I have strong opinions. Okay, I think Sean and everyone else in the council knows that about me. That I have. You can ask me anything, and I'll probably have an opinion that I strongly believe
That's
about
But
it.
you're an entrepreneur, right? Like you
sorta.
you develop stuff. That's a typical thing. It's hard to delegate because you want to do it the way you know works, and it's hard to let go of let go of the reins for other people to do it.
Yeah, I see a little image in my mind of something. It would be great if it looked like this. And then the rest of the committee meeting is always just me being like, how can I convince
That's the
them?
wrong thing. It's
No,
not the
yeah,
right-
no.
yeah.
How can I convince
They're
them?
ruining it.
Yeah, like no.
But I love on a committee. I love people with opinions, honestly, because you know right where they're at. Like even if you disagree with them, there's no question you know right where they're at.
There's nothing worse than someone on a committee that's just like the person that doesn't have an idea that wants to sort of poo-poo everyone else, tell you all the reasons why those ideas won't work.
Yeah.
And you always have one or two people on a committee, and literally there's no idea that they ever hear that they like. Like their job, they think on that committee is to poke holes in everybody else's bright ideas. I'm going to change my answer is to get rid of people like that.
Like me? Wow.
Man.
Gee, that would hurt.
Are you that guy? Are you that guy that's like, that wouldn't work? No, that wouldn't.
No, I mean, if we don't question some things, like you said, you have strong opinions, but if we don't question and actually get to the bottom of everything, then what's the point? I mean, if somebody's just going to have a strong opinion about it, and then it's going to force that opinion, and it's going to be the wrong one, then my job, and
but don't come questioning it.
No,
if you're not
I just
look for a way to work around.
I'm looking at. I don't want to call myself a journalist, but as somebody that's trying to report the truth and make sure that it's it's non-biased and just subjective about the whole thing. I have to ask those questions. I have to ask because, like, you know what? Let's get to the bottom of it. If I don't question that, then what's the point of actually having a civilized discussion, right? Now, yeah, as a veteran, we're taught, like, you know what? They came down from the top. We're gonna follow these orders. But then, okay, we followed the orders and we did this. But let's do an after action review. Is like, what went wrong? Why couldn't we do this? If we don't question this, like, you know what? I'm sorry that decision you made back there. We flanked and we shouldn't have flanked and we should have gone straight. That was the wrong thing to do. Like, but you don't question them. How does that person learn? And how do I not learn? Right. So you have to kind of question in order for us to get to the right answer together, so we can, like, you know what, actually that does make sense. So not just one person's looking at it, but two people are kind of coming into the same decision.
You should never decide flanking maneuvers based on committee. I'm just going to put that.
Yeah.
That was a bad example. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, but I didn't. Okay, yeah, I guess you disagreed on that one. I see what you did there. But no, that's the whole thing. I really enjoyed the talk today. I apologize for the technical difficulties we had. We have technical difficulties speaking today. It's been all day, but I hope you guys enjoyed coming in.
It was great, man.
Fun.
I kind of feel like Josh and I should be entitled to at least rapid fire one question at you.
Yeah, this is my show. It's not going to happen. But you know what? Just because you're so gracious, I'll allow it.
What's your wife's birthday?
I didn't write it down, but I can't tell. Okay, so it's a touchy subject for her on that day.
Okay.
So I will never tell you because I can't. There's just the big story behind it, and if she ever wants to tell you the story, then she will.
Sure.
But I will not tell you.
But you do know it.
I do know it.
Okay.
I even wrote it down. Actually, no, I didn't. But I do know it.
What a cop out.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I think I do over Josh.
It's classified.
No,
classified.
It's not. It is classified, and there's a whole reason behind it.
Yeah.
And if I tell it on the air, and she finds out,
you're in trouble.
I'm like, my stuff is packed.
So call an audible, ask him his anniversary.
Right there, you go.
Yeah.
Do an anniversary.
September 16th.
That's a good one. How old are both your kids?
My 5 kids.
How old are all of them?
Our oldest just turned 26 on Saturday, and then our second he's 21. Our other one is our third is 18. The other one is 10, and then our daughter's 7.
Why is it so difficult
11.
that people ask me that all the time, and I'm like, I only got 2, and I'm like,
So
now you got to ask him which one's his favorite, like he did to you. With
exactly.
Which is your favorite kid?
I have a favorite kid, and it's my bulldog, Harley.
Yeah, that's right.
He's treated better than everybody.
Yeah, he does. I mean, the dude sleeps all the time. I wish I had his life. He just sleeps. He's like, he's like, and all he does is grunt and he's like, okay, are you hungry? That's what you got to do.
Anytime I leave my kids alone at the house, like I got to run to the store or whatever. The last thing I say before I walk out is our dog's name is Baxter. And I'm like, I'm going out. I'll be right back. Baxter's in charge.
Yeah.
Because I trust him way more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The good thing right now is like, our oldest and our youngest are at the house. So the other three are with their other parent. And they're all three of them are in California. But, having a 26-year-old with our daughter is like, okay, that's why we're able to join a lot of things now because, we're before it's like, if it was just her and I, it'd be awesome because we like, you know what? What's the next happy hour? What's the next night? And now it's like, okay, where's the next play date?
Yeah.
That's the one thing we're always having a hard time with, like play dates and stuff like that. So yeah, it is what it is. But what was your question?
Why didn't you join the army?
Why did I join the army?
Why didn't you join the army?
I did join the army.
Oh, I thought you said you were Navy.
I was.
You were Navy and Army?
Yeah.
It's a double dipper.
I was active duty Navy
Yeah.
from 2000 to 2004. Got out in 2004. Went back in 2008. 2008 to after I got out of college.
And then you joined the Army.
I went National Guard.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you learned.
I learned. The reason why I didn't go back to the Navy is because they didn't actually, when I was trying to re-enlist, they said, "Oh, well, the biggest thing we'll give you is, what do you have a bonus?" They're like, "Yeah, we have a bonus." Well, what's the bonus? They're like, "Oh, we'll give you brand new uniforms." I was like, "What? Are you serious? That's it?
We'll deduct it over 6 paychecks.
Yeah." I'm like, "No." And then I walked over to the National Guard guy. He's like, what do you want? I was like, "Well, I want this, this, and this." He's like, "All right, I'll give you a $15,000 bonus, and which by the way, they still owe me
Right.
half of the bonus, and they still owe me the bonus from Afghanistan. That because I re-enlisted in Afghanistan, and I got
Somebody get Pat
all
Fallon
tax-free.
on the horn. Where's
Yeah.
Pat?
You know what?
Call your PAC office. They'll take care of it.
Yeah, I got screwed so bad with the National Guard. That's why I got out, because I was like, at the point I was inactive guard, right? So I was working.
I got so screwed so bad by the National Guard, like their motto is
Pretty much.
Oh, man.
It was bad, man. Like, cause look, I did it in faithful. Like, I re-enlisted in Afghanistan, right? I had a year left. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna re-enlist here because then I can actually get tax-free money, and it was like 10 grand, and they still owe me $7,500 from my original enlistment. This is going back to 2009. So when I went back in, I was like, all right, this is cool. And then I kept getting passed on going to school to get promoted. So I never got past E5 because they would never send me to school. And I was like, you know what? You're not gonna send me to school. You're not paying my bills. I'm gonna go somewhere else. So I got a job, with as a contractor. And next thing I know, I'm like, I'm making good money. And they're like, oh, well, you got to come back and do drills. I was like, no, I'm ING. It doesn't matter. ING's inactive guard, meaning that I'm not going to go to. So I had a lot of bad years. And so after that happened, they're like, oh, well, you need to do this. I was like, I'm deployed. I can't come in to do a weekend drill. I'm getting paid way too much money for me to come back on this thing, right? So then they're like, well, you could do. It's like, I asked you to do drills with the unit that I'm with right now, and you said no. So you can go pound sand. I'm not doing it. And so in 2020, I was in Syria. I was like, you know what? Forget this. I'm out. I'm ETSing on December 7th, which is Pearl Harbor. I was like, I'm out. This is just stupid. At 21 years, and they're counting bad years because of this. I was like, I don't need it. And at that point in time, I was just already disillusioned with the fact that you have really, really good commands, and then you have really, really bad ones. And I think the bad ones are the ones that dry people out. And that was me. And even that unit that I was with was under investigation from the IG, Inspector General of the Army, because it was just that bad. There were so many other issues that happened. I was like, nah, I'm good. I don't really want to even deal with it anymore. It's just dumb.
Is that the Army experience you were hoping?
I mean, that sounds a lot like every Army experience I've ever heard of, but
yeah, because they
that sounds pretty typical to me.
He sounded upset that he had such a great time in the Navy, and you're like, why didn't you join the Army?
Yeah, like Navy did this, Navy did that. How was your Army
See
experience?
that coming.
Awful.
I went to Singapore. I went to Tasmania. I went to Australia, the west coast of Australia. Perth, Fremantle, man, I had the time of my life. I was 22. I had money. I had money, and I was because being 6 months at sea, you save money.
Yeah.
Like you're not doing anything. I mean, yeah, you had stuff you could buy, but I'm like, why am I gonna keep? I didn't smoke. I didn't do anything like that. So I was like, I was actually getting cigarettes flown in, and I would sell them because the store would run out. So I would actually also get the barrels of dip, right? The tobacco. So I would sell them like when the store was out. We're like, oh, I have several dip. I was
But
like,
you didn't even use it.
no, I didn't. But I sold them for. I think the one that I sold the most was like for $400.
Wow.
So that was it was a racket, man. Like people didn't really know. I was like, ah, I got something. I'm like, hey, yeah, $400 for the entire thing, and I was being flown in all the time. It was cool.
E4 Mafia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an E4s with the
No Amazon on the ship. Huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that was back then. Didn't have
Yeah.
Amazon, but it'd take forever because they have to fly it in on the cod, and then from there on, you waited for it to come, and it was like pretty much daily when you were out to sea, or every other day depending on what it was. But it was cool. It was I wouldn't trade that experience at all, and it was just fun. But
There you go.
but one thing that we didn't talk about was Hot Summer Nights.
Oh yeah.
Hot Summer Nights, great lineup this year. It's exciting. A lot of 90s artists. Do you want me to tell the artists? Or?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, yeah, we're already in. Go.
Yeah, we're already all right. Everclear is starting us off, and there's a total of 9 bands this year.
Yeah.
So we've got Eli Young Band, Pam Tillis. We've got Steven Adler, the drummer from Guns N' Roses.
The original, yeah.
Yeah, the original. We've got All for One, R&B.
that song
Throwback.
always reminds me of the movie with what's his name, Ryan Reynolds, when he's got the retainer on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. We've got a band called Liberation that's was very popular. I've been told in the 90s, or I don't even know. It's obviously they sing in Spanish, and so but supposedly like a record, like they've got more hit songs than any of the bands on our lineup. And then of course Stone Temple Pilots on the big day. STP. So that's going to be a big one.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one. The one thing so usually the 4th of July show is the biggest draw. And then the second one last year, it ended up being AB Quintanilla, which was huge.
Yeah.
And so now with Liberacion is going to be out here, and they're like multi-Grammy, and they've been around ever since I remember. My parents used to listen to them all the time, and I'm like, dang, that's actually a pretty good lineup on that one, and that's going to be they'll be closing out the series. So that's going to be super cool.
Which one's Lights on the Lake?
Stone Temple
Stone Temple
Pilots.
Pilots,
Yeah, we have another
3rd
band,
July.
one other band called Windbreakers. That's they're a local cover band. Let's say local. They're kind of a franchise cover band, but they're based in Dallas, and they're incredible.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that we can actually bring them in and actually talk to them here on the podcast.
I will see.
So
yeah,
you gotta work a magic and be like, oh, Overdrive, let's go.
Yeah,
but that's why I
Caesar's
wanted
gonna be carrying his mic out.
Not get a boom mic.
That's why I was going to talk to Chris, because Chris has actually got some people.
On location.
Yeah,
I mean, I can do that.
Yeah, we can through Busey Digital.
Busey Digital.
Yep, which is one of my radio stations that I got through.
You guys,
if I could ever get it working,
just buy your tickets. Get them early.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's joking. It's free to
free.
it's free
Yeah,
to
free.
which you know what, for the big the type of sets or people that are coming in, that's huge, that you're not paying any money to go see these guys, and they're like super close.
Absolutely.
Super close. And a lot of times I was really disappointed in one of them last year or the year before that was a big country star that came in last year and didn't really
Dina
spend
Carter?
No, not Cole
Oh man, I
Swindell.
almost forgot Lisa Loeb.
Oh.
There's a lot of excitement around Lisa Loeb this year.
I'm excited.
She was
honestly,
she was my 90s crush. I'm not gonna lie. You say, oh yeah, I can't wait.
Oh yeah,
she's gonna be, my wife's gonna be mad, but it's true.
How far out do y'all start contacting the artists to get them scheduled?
It's really about January is when it starts.
Okay.
And you kind of throw every single band that you ever wanted to hear on the wall.
Yeah.
And then they start, it's like Josh is saying, it's the committee thing. They start knocking them off your list.
No, never
and then,
happened.
you know,
Well, we need to be involved in that committee next year.
Well, I was just wondering because I was at a Christmas party and Lisa Loeb's name came up amongst some other
that
city
one's been
people
on
that I
the
was there
list
with.
for multiple years. So this is one that they've been requesting for multiple years, and we got her this year.
Next year, Jewel.
Yeah.
I mentioned her in the
Yeah.
last. Yeah.
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 She don't need a band. She can just play out of the trunk of her car.
No, you know,
Yeah.
you know what I'd love to see? 10,000 Maniacs.
I
With
heard that.
I
with
think there's only 9,000.
passed away. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, the drummer from
I'm gonna have to. You're gonna have to sing something. I don't know. Give me a.
Carnival.
I've heard you
Uh,
sing karaoke, so I know you've got the skill.
Yeah. 10,000 Maniacs was like in my emo days because that was
Got
like that's like the Depeche Mode type
Okay,
of
yeah.
type of vibe.
Yeah.
And so like Natalie Merchant actually had a really, really great voice. It was almost she also was kind of the same vibe as what was the name of the band? The Cranberries.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
around the same thing. Cranberries were a little bit more rock, but then 10,000 Maniacs was a little bit more like alternative, grunge type of thing. Not so much grunge, but just really alternative, like almost like a ballad.
When I worked at K10,
Yeah.
the master control op was my roommate,
Yeah.
and he was just, I probably still is just obsessed with the Cranberries. It's funny that you say that.
Mm.
And this was 2001. Still, internet was still fairly new, right? And,
Yeah.
dude,
Prodigy.
I don't know how he did it.
Yeah.
He ended up connecting with them. So anytime they come to the States now, they call him up. They're like, "Hey, Dale, we're going to be down in San Antonio. We got some tickets waiting for you." Like he's got an actual dialogue with them. I had it for 20 years now. I don't know how the hell he managed to do that, but he's like #1 Cranberries fanboy, and now he's on their list.
Yeah,
That's great.
it's crazy, man. But I'm looking forward to some of these acts. They're pretty fun. And Sophia, my daughter, she loves going out there and passing out the fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she always helps. We always try to instill in her that you have to do your community service and be able to give back. So that's one thing that we really teach her, and she loves going out there and passing out fans and meeting other people. Like she got to meet AB last year. She loved it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fun. I think Los Morros is going to actually open up for Liberacion as well, which is the same band that opened up for AB last year. So that's going to be super fun. So you guys are out.
And I heard they stole. I mean, they did a fantastic job, Los Moros.
Yeah. Oh, they're great. I think they came back for another one, but on May 3rd, there's going to be another little festival. It's put together by the Hispanic Heritage Council, and they're going to be right outside of the new 903 Brewery, right behind it, across the street from White Rabbit. They're going to be having their little thing there, and they're going to have a very well-known band. Well, it's like Colombian cumbia. It's actually real cumbia, and they're going to be there. Chiquis Isobana, I believe it's the name of it, but they're going to be pretty fun. It's going to be May
Day after
3rd.
that's the food truck competition for downtown Sherman now.
And
That's
also,
right.
the VFW, which the golf tournament on May 3rd, in the morning. So,
got a lot of fun
you were
things.
You got your calendar out?
yeah, it's gonna be. But see, the good thing is that the golf tournament's gonna be pretty much over by 2, so we can definitely go because I'm gonna be hungry by that time. I'm gonna hit up that truck the truck festival. So it'll be super fun.
So real quick, when's the first Hot Summer Nights concert?
Oh,
It's this summer.
yeah. It's on a Thursday.
Yeah. All right, Thursday in the summer.
I think it's June 3rd.
11:30.
That's probably wrong.
You say. I'm trying to look for it. Hot Summer Night Sherman. Here we go.
I have a poster and I meant to bring it in.
June 5th.
June 5th.
June 5th.
Cinco de
Yep.
June.
Everclear, June 5th.
Yeah.
What time?
Bands normally go on around 7,
Yeah.
right? But they'll have the warm-up acts or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So the ones that you really, you want to definitely go to a lot of these, but the ones that are going to be really highlighted would be June 5th, which is Everclear. June 19th, which is All for One. June 26th is Eli Young Band. STP on July 3rd. And then Lisa Loeb on the 17th. Stephen, all these.
I was gonna say, how do you make a list? They say these are the ones you want to go to. The whole list.
It's just gonna be like every week. I'm like, I'm gonna really hate to miss one. I hope I don't, but I'm gonna really hate to miss
I
one.
know.
But
If you can't wait that long, April 26th, the Sherman Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah.
Come catch
there
the
you
live
go.
music.
Come catch him.
Texoma Heroes, all of the Texoma Heroes have been recognized, get to attend the concerts for free with their friends and family that they choose to bring. And then we had 27 attend the Christmas ones, and we had 15 attend the last concert. So starting to get some participation from the veteran population that we're recognizing.
Yeah, I have to still make my nomination for the next one.
Yep.
I think they already have the next one.
April 26th, come over. Kid Key.
Yeah.
Awesome. Get ready for Hot Summer Nights.
You've been to a couple of them, right?
Yeah.
Texas Heroes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'll attend any of them. You know, I mean, all of them. If you just let me know about them, I'll be there.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's the last Friday of the month.
You got to let me know.
At noon. Last Friday of the month. Just like steak night, it's the second Friday of the month. We do steak night at the BFW, and it's like the cheapest steak. Oh, these steaks are huge, and people are like, how come you don't charge as much? Like, because we want to bring people in. That's why. So anyway, but hey guys, thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate you guys coming in. We'll be back next week. I'm still trying to like I had this week. My guest did not confirm yet. So confirmed at 4:30. In the afternoon, I had to call these guys back. I was like, I don't have anybody today. I'm not coming in. They're like, oh, let's see if I, see what happens. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. It just happened.
I understand.
I get it.
Yeah. Hey, but babysitter nighttime.
You should have just brought them.
The one thing you don't do is make your babysitter mad.
Oh yeah.
You're in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Big trouble.
I tell my wife the same thing.
Yeah.
But she's like, I am the babysitter. I was like, I know.
Oh, those are fighting words right there.
Yeah.
Fighting words.
I'm already in the dollhouse. It's fine. I sleep with Harley. It's fine. But hey, we'll be back next week here at the same time at the podcast on Main. Split Window Studios. I want to thank all my sponsors, EGA Construction, and also BC Digital and Patriot Radio, who we're listening to from Florida. So I appreciate you guys coming in tonight. We will be back next week with another guest. Probably another surprise guest next week, and it should be fun. So, Josh, thank you very much for coming in. Sean, thank you so much, and Aaron, I will see you next week. And guys in the booth, thank you so much for helping us out tonight, and love you guys. We'll see you guys next week. It's Caesar with the Battle Rhythm podcast on Voice of the People.
Thank you for watching. As we wrap up today's show, we want to extend our heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in. Your support and engagement means the world to us, and we hope you found today's content insightful and entertaining. This episode, along with all previous shows, is available on all major media platforms. Whether you prefer to listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watch YouTube, we got you covered. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more listeners just like you. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Connect with us on social media, where you can join us in our conversation and stay updated on the latest news and episodes. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you once again for being part of the Voice of the People, USA Radio, and TV Network. We look forward to bringing you more exciting content in our upcoming episodes. Until next time, take care.